Welcome back. This is part 3 out of 5 of my autism terminology study series. I have a 5-part series that I'm working on. It's taking me forever. I'm not very dedicated to YouTube because I don't consider myself a serious YouTuber by any means. I hardly know what the hell I'm doing, but I have things that I want to say, and I want to get this done because I have other things that I want to talk about as well. So, like I did in my other parts, I have grouped together 4 like terms that I want to break down in detail, give examples. These are terms that they were made to describe the autistic experience. So they're not like traits, they're not diagnostic criteria, they're just descriptive terms. So the ones that I'm talking about in this video are meltdown, shutdown, sensory overload, and overstimulation. A lot of those we've probably already heard in passing. There's nothing too outlandish there. But we'll get right into it after I take a sip of coffee because my throat feels weird. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so meltdown. Where did I write? All I have written for meltdown is an unwanted and uncontrollable reaction to feelings of intense overwhelm, distress, or dysregulation. So meltdown, we hear a lot about that, right? When we hear about a stereotypical autistic kid who's throwing a tantrum, a lot of people like to call them tantrums. That is one thing I will say a meltdown is not. A tantrum is a kid who is acting out because they have a desired outcome. Meltdowns are not, like they said, unwanted and uncontrollable, as I said in my notes. So a meltdown is like when an autistic person has reached the point of dysregulation where they can no longer control their own executive functioning. So they're acting out of character. They're not necessarily doing things that they want to be doing. They're just doing whatever they have to do to regulate themselves. So that could be screaming, hitting, a lot of the times directed at ourselves because we've been taught not to hurt other people. But yeah, that is essentially what a meltdown entails. Now a shutdown is kind of, what did I write? I wrote the equivalent of the freeze response when the brain chooses between fight, flight, or freeze. Can be caused by the same things as meltdowns and are usually a response to sensory overload. A person having a shutdown might find it difficult to speak or might not be able to talk at all. So a way that I like to describe it is a shutdown is like a meltdown internalized. So it's like you're going to go one way or the other. You're going to have a meltdown and it's going to be an outburst, or you're going to have a shutdown and it's going to be an inward collapse. I have had a lot of shutdowns in my life, probably more than meltdowns, and that can just depend on the person. I'm a very, I guess you could say, introverted person. So yeah, I've literally had times where I lose my ability to speak. I know that somebody's trying to talk to me, but I'm in a shutdown, and there's been times I've had to like type, like that's a skill regression thing, and I will talk about that more in another video. So that is what a shutdown is all about, which brings us to sensory overload. And we hear about that a lot now. So sensory overload is when your 5 senses take in more information than your brain can process. This is also extremely common in ADHD. If you're an ADHD person who is triggered by sensory things, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's just anything to do with the 5 senses. It's like an assault of the senses, essentially. So if you're, classic example, if you're in the grocery store and the lights are too bright and the people are too loud and it smells bad, whatever, things like that, that is sensory overload. I experience it every time I step into the grocery store, especially Walmart. Hate Walmart. Anyway, that is sensory overload, which is very similar to overstimulation, and that is the last term for this video. What did I write for that? Overstimulation occurs when the brain is overwhelmed with incoming information and sensory data. So that's very similar to sensory overload. But the thing I think that sets them apart is overstimulation can be mental. Like, well, duh, they both are, but I feel like sensory overload is more physical and can lead to meltdowns and shutdowns, as well as so can overstimulation. But overstimulation happens more in the brain than it happens in the body, the way that sensory overload does. Because, of course, your senses can be overstimulated. So, I don't know. I think they are very, very similar with a few key differences, like I've been saying about a lot of these. So, that'll do it for part 3. Hopefully part 4 doesn't take so long for me to put out. I have sort of switched things around here because I recently fell out of bed and broke my coffee table in the process, smashing my face off the floor. So I had to set up this whole new desk thing, and it's weird and I don't like it, but I'm getting used to it. Also, like I said, I want to figure out my lighting. I don't think I actually said that in this take, but this is like the worst lighting. I am recording on my phone this time because I think it's actually better than my laptop, and I don't think I'll do the laptop again. But anyways, I digress. Thank you for watching. See you next time.